thank you for coming in today. How have you been?
Been alright. Just like school's been a lot, my senior year and getting ready for college and I finally got in on my application, so I'm waiting to hear back. And so that's stressful and like weighs on my mind. And then recently just my mom and I have just been really getting into it and I just don't think she understands what I'm going through.
So I know we've talked about schooling in your last few sessions, and I know your mom has popped up a few times. So for today's session, what do you want to focus on? Would you like to focus on, school and applying for college and what life could look like then, or your what's going on with you and your mom?
I don't know. I mean, I'm nervous about school, but I'm also like put all my stuff in. So part of me feels like I've done all I can do, and it is what it is. So I think it'd be helpful to focus on my mom and my relationship.
Okay, definitely, and of course, like if you want to bring up like things going on with school, you totally can. But yeah, so tell me about what's happening with you and your mom currently.
I don't know. Like we had a good day the other day, like this past weekend. She was off work, and my siblings were at a friend's house for a sleepover. So we were able to like really have time, just the two of us, to hang out. Like we went shopping a little bit, and then we got dinner and brought it home, and we're like watching TV and eating and just chatting. And then out of nowhere, it just feels like she's, getting on me about all the stuff that I'm not doing right. And I just don't know where it came from. Like I know I've like wasn't the best student in the past, and like I hung out with some like bad friends, quote unquote, or like whatever. But I just don't feel like she sees where I am now. It just felt like I couldn't do anything right. I had to defend myself.
I hear that. And thank you for telling me that, because I know you've been through a lot throughout, our journey together, but you're doing an amazing job so far, and I can see your change. Let's talk more about what you and your mom did this past weekend and how you felt just hanging out with her and not with your siblings.
It was nice, like, we usually like money's tight, I think I get it, but so like I usually don't ask for a lot, or like, don't expect a lot of things, but it was nice like she took me out, she got me like a sweater or two, and like we got like some coffee, and we were just spending time together and like picked up food. And we were like watching really good movies together and just talking, and I was kind of chatting a little bit about how I was worried about getting my college acceptance letters or like rejections back, and like places I applied, and like whether or not they would take me. And that's just when she started getting on me, basically being like, well, you might have a better chance at these schools if you didn't like mess around last year, if you like went to school more often, if you did more of your work, if you applied yourself more, like if you weren't hanging out with your friends and getting up to stuff. And it just felt like she was missing the point that I was making. And instead of empathizing with me and understanding that stress, she just like was getting on me about stuff that they did in the past, and like, what am I going to do about it now? That was like a year and a half ago.
So there's a lot of things I want to touch on with that. So let's begin with how you felt after talking to your mom about, your college applications and her, your conversation about talking about her past. How did you feel in that moment?
I got really hurt and like defensive. Like I felt like I had to like jump up and defend myself immediately. Like I know that in some classes I didn't do the best last year, but that didn't mean that I was like failing everything. I was doing really well in my English class, and like my art classes I was doing really well in, and got like praise from those teachers. So it's not like I was just not doing anything at all. It just felt like I was had to defend myself, and like I don't know, she just didn't see the work that I've done recently to try and like, up my grades in the past few months before I applied. And like, I don't know, I know some of these universities are like more of a chance. They aren't like what you call safety schools, are more of a risk, but I feel like I still have a decent shot. And she could have been realistic with me about like my chances without getting on me and being so negative.
Yeah. And I know, like I said in past sessions, we have talked about your schooling, and I have seen your growth with your art, English, stuff like that. You've been doing a great job from when we first started meeting to now. You've changed a lot, and it's a positive change. But with your conversation with your mom, how often have you guys started having conversations where you've had to defend yourself? How often does it happen for you?
I feel like recently it's gotten more frequent, like, obviously when I was like skipping school and like not doing my work and like hanging out with friends when I was supposed to be in school, like doing things, like it was definitely more like accusatory conversations and like I get it, I was like not being responsible, but it's just like recently, like since I've been applying in colleges and since that's been going on, like it's just more and more on top of me of like, see now this is like what the harms or like the consequences of what you did before are. And I get it, but it's also just like I'm still a kid. Like I'm trying my best, so it just feels like since I started applications and since they've been put in, it's become a more frequent thing.
So to follow up with that, would you say that this has been happening more frequently now than it has in the past?
I would say so. Like I say, like in the past couple weeks, it's been like more frequent. Like definitely in the last month or so, or it just feels like whatever I say or do like isn't good enough, and there's just I don't know. And I just feel like it always goes back to like the same thing.
You mentioned when you started talking about your problems that you're facing with your mom, you did mention a really interesting word, which was defending yourself. How would you define defending yourself when you're talking with your mom about school and the recent issues that you've been facing with her?
I don't know. I just feel like defending myself, like it just feels like I'm on guard because I just don't feel like she's seeing the true me and like seeing the growth I've accomplished and like where I am now. So it just feels like I almost have to like prove myself to her and like prove where I am. It just stinks because I just wish she would see the changes I've gone through. I just feel like she doesn't.
Yeah, well, and I get that's hard because you've been through a lot and you're at an age where it's like you're starting to figure out your independence and moving past the possibility of moving away, which can be really scary at the end of the day. Have you, when you say defending yourself, how do you go about that conversation with your mom? Like, as for like a scenario, your mom's saying, you need to try harder, you need to do this. How do you talk to her? How do you voice your opinion?
I feel like I don't know what's hard in those moments because I feel like I just get upset and I'm not able to really communicate my thoughts or feelings really well. Like after a minute I'm able to, but it just feels like immediately in that moment I get really upset. And so it's more like an emotional response, and then I think that just like derails the conversation even farther and just like makes it worse. So then we're just like yelling at each other.
And it's hard to hear guys yelling at each other. And when it comes to the point of actually yelling at each other, what do you do in that situation? Do you stay? Do you continue, or do you try to back out?
I don't know. I try to stay at first, but then just gets to a point where I'm just like, I'm over this, and I eventually just like leave and go to my room and kind of like head out there.
Which that can be a positive factor of you removing yourself from the situation, but also, continuing that conversation with your mom, you understand that it won't lead to anywhere. It'll be the same thing. And I do remember, and we've talked about this in the last few sessions, when you first started, when you were skipping school and doing this, you and your mom would have these conversations that turn sometimes, and you would also remove yourself from the situation. So let's think about, what you did back then and where you are now. Do you remember the times when you would do that and how you felt after the change with your mom?
I don't know. I just feel like I wish it could have been like how it used to be. Like we used to be able to communicate and like not get angry with each other. And then even when we were going through that stuff, like my mom would be upset, but I feel like she was more understanding or more concerned, so it was like easier to communicate with her about it, even if it did get to arguments. Like she eventually did come around, or like we both came around, it was easier to talk. But I just feel like now, I don't know, it just feels like there's no point.
Yeah, and I know in the past your siblings weren't as old as they are now, and I know you mentioned that the time that you had with your mom was just with the both of you. Do you think that with your siblings more older and like having more of an impact on her life, do you think that that may put a strain between the two of you?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, she like babies my siblings, like they're 10 now, they like aren't obviously adults, but they can do things independently for themselves. And I just, like, I know they have a lot of health stuff when they're younger, and they like were really sick as like babies, but they're like old enough to do things on their own, and I just feel like she babies them, and then because she does that, like all of her time and energy is put towards them. And like it's a weird thing because even though she like is mad at me and doesn't trust me, on the other hand, she's kind of like, well, she's older, she's the big sibling, like she's the big kid, so she's able to do it by herself. And I know I am, like I'm independent, but I also just feel like I don't have my mom's support. And then when I do feel like it just always turns around to something I'm doing wrong.
And I will say, and I agree, and I really love hearing you say how independent you are. Because you are very independent. And I know when we first started meeting, you were relying a lot on different people, your friends, and different places to help you. But now you've gained that independence. And I think that's a really great thing that you're recognizing. And it shows how much growth you've had since our first session. Going back with how you feel about your mom treating your siblings differently compared to you. Have you brought up that to your mom?
I've tried in the past. It usually is like in the moments where we're really angry at each other, so it probably doesn't come out the best way. But I've told her before, like the kids are bigger, like I get that they might need special attention or they might have different programs and stuff that they go to, but like I don't know, but like I need time with you too, like I still need support even though I'm almost an adult, like older kids still need support. And I feel like she gets it and she also feels like guilty, so it's just like I don't know, I feel bad for needing it in a way, because I don't want her to feel bad, because like even though we have these issues, I still really love my mom and like want to work it out.
And I think you brought up a great point. I want to touch on how we felt bad about bringing it up. Why do you feel bad bringing up that conversation?
I don't know, because in the past I brought it up, she just like hurts in the heart. She's like, well, I'm sorry I'm a bad mom, like I'm sorry that I like didn't give you enough attention. Like I think she realizes that sometimes she's had to like give more attention to my siblings, but which like I don't blame her, but it's also like it did impact me. So I feel like she feels bad, but she's like unable to see how it impacts me without like feeling guilty. It's like I don't want to make her feel bad, so I just like don't really bring it up. Or if I do, I feel like I bring it up in the wrong times and then it makes things worse.
That's you bring up a great point about wrong times. What do you define as a wrong time of bringing up those types of conversations to your mom?
Like in the past when I brought it up, it's around like the heat of a moment of an argument, and so like my tensions are really high, and like I'm frustrated, and I kind of snap and I'm like bring it up. And so I realized like it might be the best time because we're both like defensive already, and then just adds fuel to the fire.
And I think your recognition, bringing it up at the wrong times, I think that's really important because I can see a room for growth with you, and having your mom hear more about your own feelings. And I think that it's important that you recognize that. So let's think about the day you've had with your mom. There was just the two of you, went out for coffee, you went shopping. You really enjoyed that day, didn't you?
It was really nice. It felt like we were spending like quality time together.
Yeah. Did you, when it was not the heat of the moment of your guys fighting and stuff like that, did you ever bring up your feelings with her?
No, we just kind of kept it like light, casual conversation.
That's understandable. I see that. So hear me out with this. Let's say you and your mom have another day. You ask your mom about going out, having a one-on-one day, and you're enjoying your time together, and you start to bring up your feelings. How do you think that could go?
I think it could go well. I don't know. I just worried that like it'll start off good, but then we'll get to a point where like emotions just get high. So that's why I think I'm scared to bring it up because I just don't want it to possibly go that way.
And I think it's important to recognize your own feelings because you have to do it at the time and place when you think is best. And, this isn't going to be something we can resolve right away. This is going to be something we're going to have to work on. And I can see your motivation to change and wanting to have that change with your mom before you do leave for school. So, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, we keep working on this, and in the next 2 sessions, you decide to have this conversation with your mom and working out and figuring out your own feelings about what you think is best and how you would introduce these topics to your mom. On the scale of 1 to 10, how do you think after the next 2 to 3 sessions you would feel about bringing this up to her?
I feel like a 6.
A 6.
7. I just want to work on how to say it. I don't know how to bring it up.
Yeah. And I know you kind of touched on it, but what does a 6 or a 7 mean to you?
A 6 or a 7 means like fairly like comfortable doing it. I just want to like practice in conversation. So I like have the right mindset going into it.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think that's really important. I can see your commitment to do this because I know you have a lot going on the table of school and with your mom and stuff like that. So I think it's important that you recognize a lot of these features of yourself and then the features of your relationship. So I know we kind of talked about a scenario. So let's go back to that scenario. And I know we did the scale of 1 to 10. So how would you picture a good day between your mom and you? Besides, even though you guys just recently did your 1 day together, how do you think you want to change that in the future? Or if you want to keep it the same?
I think I'd like to keep it the same because I don't know, it was nice to like get away from the house and sort of be in like a neutral, like open environment and like do something fun because I feel like I just have the same routine. Like we both just have our busy routines of like go with work and go to school and like we don't get a chance to like step away. Even if it's just to like get lunch or like walk around or like something small, like I feel like that environment was helpful for us.
Like I said, it's important that you're recognizing this, and I think that's really great for your continued growth. Going back, how often do you have your days with your mom, your one-on-one days? Is it frequent? Is it infrequent because of your siblings? And I know you've mentioned in the past your mom has gone through a lot of financial stuff with her job and stuff like that. So how frequent do you guys spend days together by yourselves?
I mean, sometimes we'll have days together at the house or like the siblings like at the neighbors or like whatever, but we're just like kind of watching TV and like not really chatting and kind of doing our own thing. Which is fine sometimes, but like I feel like it's kind of rare that we have those days where we'll like take intentional time with you now, which I feel like it's more important.
That sounds great, yeah. And like I said, we're not going to figure this out this session. It's going to be a lot of time of working out your feelings and like what we can do. And I think we can start developing a plan of when it'd be great times to bring up these types of conversations to your mom. And I think it's important, if you mention to her, slowly you're going to start with the first step of maybe starting out to have one-on-one days at least once a month. How would once a month sound to you with your mom?
I feel like once a month is doable. Like even if it's like not nothing crazy, just like taking a walk around the neighborhood or like grabbing a coffee or whatever.
Yeah. So we can begin there. You can begin mentioning, hey mom, let's go out to coffee. Try it at least once a month. Maybe not start bringing up topics of conversation until you start feeling more comfortable. Even though you feel like at a 6 or 7 right now, and I know we've been talking a lot about this, so your feelings are in the present. So for the future, I think I want us to get to a 10.
Okay.
So right now, I think you're in a great spot. You're doing a lot of commitment to this, and I can see a lot of the growth. So I think as of right now, for being at we could say a 6.5.
Okay.
We'll say a 6.5, and you can start introducing, spending one-on-one days with your mom, and then when you start feeling more at a 7.5 or an 8, you can slowly start introducing your own topics of your feelings before you do leave for college. But you did a great job today expressing your thoughts and feelings regarding your relationship with your mom, and I've seen a lot of growth with you since our first session, because in your first session you were very quiet and stuff like that. But now I can see that you feel comfortable sharing this information, and I think that we can successfully get to the 10 within the next few sessions.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.